And so it all comes down to this: Dick Grayson's final climactic confrontation against the villainous Heartless, with the fate of Blüdhaven hanging in the balance. What'll happen next? Well, let's hop into the pages of Nightwing issue number 118, the final issue of Tom Taylor and Bruno Redondo's award-winning landmark series, and find out what happens next together, shall we? So then, picking up directly from where the last issue left off, a very bearded Nightwing had managed to save his sister and her girlfriend from the wrath of Tony Zucco. Along the way, too, Dick had overcome his psychosomatic fear of heights and also gained the revelation that he was actually the target the fateful night the Flying Graysons were killed. Though with Zucco captured, Nightwing hopes now he can finally turn away from this tragic part of his life once and for all and gain some modicum of justice and solace. Again, a great thing I love about this issue is that the art does a ton of the work telling the story, as Dick tells this tale of overcoming his own personal monster. We see a shot of the statue commemorating the city's founding by Captain Blood and the great sea monster he did battle with. Again, symbolism, you gotta love it. Unfortunately, though, Zucco ends up slipping away, as it seems that Heartless not only kidnapped the children of the underworld community, he also apparently kidnapped some cops' kids too to really give him some leverage. And hey, speaking of Lyle Shelton, what's going on with him now? Well, nothing good. It seems that the heart he stole away from Blockbuster is breaking down. It lasted him longer than normal. But all this extra stress and exertion is putting him in the red, meaning he's going to need a replacement heart, and soon, and because all of this has been about stealing Nightwing's heart from the very beginning. Heartless is finally ready to enter the endgame for his plan. Again, if you'll recall, he's actually been masquerading as Dick Grayson, and now he plans to throw some dirt on poor Dick's legacy by destroying Haven and the lives of all those who call it home. Meaning that it looks like Dick Grayson is going to have to shave the homeless beard and get ready for one confrontation at high noon. Thankfully, he doesn't have to do this alone, though, as Dick has managed to dispatch the rest of the Bat family to shell companies owned by Lyle, in hopes of finding the missing kids and defanging Heartless once and for all. And what I truly love about this big confrontation they've been building up to for multiple issues now is that when Dick actually does go to challenge Heartless, he actually ends up living up to the quote that Alfred gave, the one that's written on the statue as you enter Haven, about how you don't need to wear a mask to be a hero, because Dick actually goes to fight Heartless as himself. Which actually ends up being the smartest move he probably could have made at that moment, as it now proves beyond the shadow of a doubt to all the citizens of Blüdhaven that Heartless and Dick are not the same person. Of course, Lyle knows that Dick and Nightwing are the same person, and he very easily could reveal his secret identity and blow up his entire life, but Dick knows full well that that sword cuts both ways, and that if Heartless did try and out Nightwing, he would be forced to out himself at the same time. Nightwing basically ends up calling Heartless's bluff right here, right now, saying that he's perfectly okay revealing his secret identity, but he knows that Heartless would never do the same because he was a bully and a coward as a kid, and he's a bully and a coward now as an adult. All of this too mostly ended up being theater and grandstanding, giving the rest of the Bat family time to save the kidnapped kids, which they do, meaning that Heartless officially no longer has any way of controlling his army of henchmen, who very cathartically all end up turning on Heartless, forcing him to flee. Nightwing ends up giving chase, and we get a very cool little scene wherein he changes into his super suit while passing through a box truck. Heartless is also really full of himself during this chase too, figuring that Nightwing must still be scared of heights like he was before. But not only has Dick managed to conquer his fears, he does so in truly heroic fashion by drop-kicking Heartless from a great height. Now, it seems that Heartless's exit strategy was to reconvene with his butler and Tony Zucco at the dock so that he could take a boat out from Blüdhaven. A good plan in theory, but one that quickly ends up blowing up in his face little by little. Gerald pulls a gun on Nightwing only to have Haley the dog swoop on in and save our hero, even getting injured in the process. It's after that Heartless actually ends up turning on Tony Zucco, saying that he modeled his whole life on the famous gangster, that the night the Graysons died was the night that Heartless was born. But now that Lyle knows that that crime didn't actually go off the way it was supposed to be, and that Nightwing was always the target, always the main character of Heartless's story, he's totally pissed off. Though in truth, I don't actually know how Heartless learned this information unless Zucco had told him, and furthermore, the whole looking up to Zucco thing, that kind of came out of nowhere. I assume they were just working together because they both hated Nightwing, but hey. Still though, petty to the very end, Heartless vows to hurt Nightwing one more time by killing Zucco, and in doing so taking away the last shot shot at getting real punitive justice for the Graysons' murder. Though now with all the onlookers finally dealt with, it means that Heartless and Nightwing can finally have it out mano-a-mano. And the fight itself is really damn cool, not because it's particularly brutal, actually quite the opposite. Nightwing remains cool and level-headed during the whole thing, letting Lyle lash out and tire himself, knowing full well that the heart that he stole from Blockbuster can't sustain him for that much longer, and in the end, Heartless will just kind of defeat himself, which is exactly what happens. The end is near for Heartless, not that Lyle seems to care very much. He says that he's already done enough to perfectly carve out his legacy, that Heartless and his crimes will be legendary in Blüdhaven moving forward, and that he will be immortal from this point forward. Nightwing being Nightwing, though, has of course already thought about this, and because Lyle sure loved playing the identity game, it'll actually make it that much easier for Oracle to doctor the public records and make people question whether Lyle was ever heartless at all. His great works ultimately coming to naught as he is completely erased from history. Just another faceless, nameless madman who Nightwing managed to defeat, and as far as Heartless's many victims, well, the good guys thought about that one too. They're going to rename streets in their honor, and to use the Pennyworth Foundation to set up trust funds for their kids so they will not be forgotten orphans. And honestly, all this talk about parents and their children, legacy and such, well, it's made Nightwing kind of sentimental, and because of that, he goes to visit his parents' grave, something that he ultimately doesn't do that much. He talks about how maybe in the back of his mind he always felt that it was true that he was the target of Tony Zucco's wrath that fateful night, but now that he's actually honest with himself, he will be able to put it behind him. He also brings two very special women with him that day to the graveyard, his sister Melinda, who is now also able to finally take her place within the Grayson family, and also Barbara, the woman that Dick says he loves and who he hopes that one day he can marry. Barbara also brought some blue Pennyworth roses with her, a flower that Alfred apparently bred himself before his death. And yeah, it's on that wholesome, heartwarming little note the comic begins to wind down as Nightwing and Batgirl take in the opportunity to look at the Blüdhaven skyline one last time as it actively transforms into the famous Vincent van Gogh painting The Starry Night. And so that was Nightwing issue number 118, everyone. A damn fine finale to a damn fine series from Tom Taylor and Company. Everything came full circle, everything got wrapped up in a nice, neat little package, in some cases maybe a little too neat, but by and large I felt the book was wonderfully symmetrical. It all started with Nightwing's hope to try and build a haven in Blüdhaven, and the book ended it with him defending it. The art was good, the characterization was good. I love that we got to see so many supporting characters and members of the Bat family actually be involved here in the big finale, if only for a minute. If I did have one minor complaint, and indeed it is a minor complaint and maybe some of you out there felt this way too, I cannot help but shake the feeling that there was another beat that was missing here. Like, the book makes this whole big song and dance about Nightwing finding out this secret truth involving the night his parents were murdered, and yet it ultimately didn't matter that much in the grander scheme of things, and like, yeah, I guess it makes sense. It was so long ago, Tony Zucco killing the circus's beloved kid instead of killing their beloved acrobat act isn't really a huge change in motives or anything, but it just feels like there was supposed to be another thing there, another shoe that was meant to drop, but then it just kind of didn't. I don't know if there was supposed to be some big retcon moving forward that they ultimately got cold feet on, and considering that there was such a long wait between issue 117 and 118, maybe there was some story rejiggering, I can't tell. It doesn't really hurt the series or this finale, but it's definitely something I'm going to be thinking about moving forward. Overall, I think I would feel comfortable giving this one a very well-deserved 9 out of 10. This has been one hell of a ride, a series that I have enjoyed. From start to finish, I think it's right up there with some of the best Nightwing runs we've ever had, and that's saying something because there's been some really great ones, and oh man, do I not envy the next creative team coming on to this one, because they are going to have some big shoes to fill. But you know what, be sure to stick around the Cape Joel channel because I will be telling you all about it when that book drops next. Hey there everyone, it's your pal Cape Joel again, and if you're seeing my face right now, that means you watched to the end of the video, and I'll always be grateful for that. Retention helps in this crazy YouTube game, and so does becoming a patron. If you head on down to the description, you can find a link to my Patreon page. Recently just redid all the tiers, a lot of cool stuff offering up there, exclusive commentaries, exclusive polls, behind the scenes concept art for Capes and Quest. That's the brand new D&D show I've started soon. Never been a better time to become a patron. You can become a patron for as little as $1 a month and help the channel grow and, help me continue to deliver content like what you just saw. So I want to thank you all, and I will see you again next time. Bye-bye.